right, Braylon, set this one up because this is, look, he's the best free agent on the board, I think.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that would make all the difference for the Detroit Lions. And I know you're talking about Chris Jones.
Yeah.
What happened with him?
100% with Chris Jones. Well, you look at it this way from Chris Jones. Last year, he was offered a 2-year extension. This is Chris Jones. This is the 3-time Super Bowl champ with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was offered a 2-year extension last year, Ryan Ermanni, for tunes of $54 million. Ryan, it was denied. He declined that offer. He ended up taking a 1-year deal. So he's already letting you know that he's not trying to give the Kansas City Chiefs any type of pay cut or any type of deal. Then he signs a 1 year, and what he's doing that 1 year, Kool-Aid? Well, he wins another Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. You would think that they already would have a deal in play. But Ryan Ermanni, he's 30 years old. He's getting older. They've gotten 3 Super Bowls out of him. You know how front office management is. I don't think they're going to be in the business, and neither does the rest of the NFL in terms of just some people that they're out there talking in terms of the front office people around the league. They don't believe that they're going to be able to get an extension done, and what that becomes, he's an open market guy. He's a guy that's going to get the free agency. This is a guy you got to pursue. Like you're talking about, what's going on with him and the Chiefs won't be what's going on with him and the Detroit Lions. He won't have the same type of concern, or it won't be the same type of, well, you owe me this. The Detroit Lions don't owe him anything but a contract's deserving of his skill. And I think you go at the guy now. I think you tell him, like, look, he's upwards of 30 years old. He still can get it done at a high level. Maybe you're not paying this guy $20 million because you got your own hawks to pay. But at the same time, maybe you guys work out a deal, you figure something out where you can get this guy in for 26 and a half and maybe something on the back end. But this is a place, this is the first place that you got to go, Brad Holmes, in the offseason, in the free agency pool. You got to make a dive in terms of a conversation. With Chris Jones, because he instantly, Kool-Aid, tell me if I'm wrong, he gets on that defensive line right next to Aiden Hutchinson. Everybody else becomes that much better on defense because their jobs are a lot easier.
Yep.
The linebacking course jobs are easy. The D-backs jobs are easier. So I think you go full on for him because he's a winner. And at the end of the day, what Detroit Lions are, the mentality, the grit, the villain, you can give me all that. No, they're winners. And I think he's one of the best winners in the NFL.
Yeah, it definitely helped to maximize this kind of Super Bowl window that the Detroit Lions are trying to capitalize on. And when you're talking about going out there, we saw them pass up on some options at last year's trade deadline. If this is a guy that you believe right now, which I do believe, if you add him to this Detroit Lions team, they instantly vault, in my opinion, to the top of the NFC. They become, in my opinion, especially
maybe the NFL.
Maybe in the NFL, especially with the rest of the draft capital, the rest of the free agency that Brad Holmes is going to cook up. This Detroit Lions team becomes very, very scary.
Is he a guy that you're willing to pay $30 million a year to? And that's really the question that you have to ask. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN says the Kansas City Chiefs could get the deal done for $28 million a year. That's their price. Kansas City, if he gets to the open market, what is his price on the open market? I would assume higher than that $27 to $28 million tag. Aaron Donald is going to make $31.6 million next year. He's the highest paid defensive tackle next year. Would it shock me if he goes over that $31 million price tag? No, but I think a fair price for Chris Jones would be about $30 million, $30 million. Now, look, that's a big number to pay somebody, but if I'm going to pay that number to anybody, it's this player. For the next 4 years specifically, this could be the anchor of your defensive line. This could be the player that makes every level of your defense better. You talk about Aiden Hutchinson as this alpha. Aiden Hutchinson would be the defensive player of the year if he played next to Chris Jones. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, those two players would be all pro. You talk about the defensive backs. I know you need to sign some defensive backs. Cam Sutton would be a much better defensive back with Chris Jones up front than he is now, and so would whoever you drafted at 29 or in the second round or whoever. It feels like you can sign anybody, and they would be a better player if this guy is on your team. I think this is something you absolutely have to look into.
And also, Ryan, not to even cut you off, and not to there's the new $30 million extra a year.
Right.
Like, people are still, in terms of Detroit Lions fans, I believe we're still operating in the space where we're still scared of spending money. Oh, wait, there's more money that we have, and we're already in the NFL tops in terms of money. Where are we, $48 million?
Right.
Got $48 million on the cap. Might as well say 78, because it's a new lease on life to a certain extent. So I feel like you do a 3-year deal with Chris Jones, upwards of that, and find a way to make it work, you still will be able to sign Aiden next year. You still can finish Amon-Ra St. Brown's deal this year. Guess what? Jared Goff doesn't have to get a contract this year.
Right.
He's still under contract for this season coming up. So I think when you look at it that way, it is a major move. Ryan, you always talk about the moment. You don't know how long that window is. You don't know how long, the Detroit Lions are going to be what they were in terms of number 2 in the NFC, in terms of number 4 in the NFL. How long are the Lions going to be in this space? They led the league in touchdowns last year. Now you mean to tell me we can add some defense? Now you mean to tell me our defense can actually scare some people and make it that much easier? Our same schedule is not going to be like it was last year. Last year, you look at the schedule for the Detroit Lions, with the exception of a couple games, there's a lot of easy games there for the Lions just because of how the schedule is shaped up. Newsflash, it ain't going to be that way moving forward, and you're going to need to have the most best players that you can have. And I know I made that phrase up, but you get it.
Let me put it to you like this. If you can get Chris Jones for $30 million a year, or L'Jarius Sneed at $22 million a year.
Ain't even close.
Chris Jones.
$30 million.
Right?
Yep.
Chris Jones.
100%.
And look, you can have all the defensive backs you want, and that's great, and I appreciate it. And I love Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner's my guy.
Detroit Kings on.
How good was Sauce Gardner this year compared to what he was a year prior?
Who?
Sauce Gardner.
Who?
Right, exactly. I don't want to say who, and I know you're just making a point. I know you're making an exaggerated point.
Even though they're going to get me for it.
Right. But
yeah.
What
have you done for me lately?
What was playing ahead of Sauce Gardner in 22 was not who was playing ahead of Sauce Gardner at 23. And that makes the difference for defensive backs, unless you're Deion Sanders, unless you're Revis Island, unless you're Charles Woodson. Yeah. And we're not talking about Hall of Fame players here. We're talking about really solid Pro Bowl players, really good players, maybe even all pros one day. But these are the type of guys that are not out there right now.
And then, too, look, man, you break it down from this standpoint, Ryan and Kool-Aid and Pete, is you bring people that instantly make the team better. Like, what person can make this team better the fastest? What person can add the most impact and most value to this defense? And it's Chris Jones. It's a dumb question to ask, but here it is. I ask and answer it anyway. Who can it? Who is it? It's Chris Jones. You look at what he does from a front game. He helps stop the run. That's one of the things he helps do. He's not a guy that's just only out there from time to time as an outside linebacker, rush pressure, like a TJ Watt. This guy helps stop the run. So now you got the only two aspects of the defense, run and pass. He can help stop both. In the passing game, he's knocking passes down. He's getting to the quarterback. He's altering the quarterback's feet. He's altering the quarterback's vision. He makes it a lot easier, like you said, for the DBs. Also, you create a lot of one-on-ones for the linebackers. When you got Chris Jones up there tearing up the offensive line, the center can't get out and run protection. The guard can't get out and run protection. The left tackle is supposed to pull on this passing play to the screen. He can't make that happen specifically, and now you got other defensive linemen eating. Aleem McNeil can eat right next to him. You look at insert guy on the opposite side. Is it your boy not Charles Johnson, but Justin? Excuse me, Justin. It's been so long. Justin Harris.
Oh, Josh Harris?
No,
Josh Pascal?
No, not Josh Pascal. Defensive end on the right side. HBC from Jackson State.
What's his name?
James Houston.
James Houston.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. It's been so long. But now you have...
Speaking of who?
Man, what? But that goes to show you how that defensive line needs help, like realistically. But everyone eats and everyone is helped in that linebacker core. Who knows what a Jack Campbell can do if you got a guy like Chris Jones in front of him? Then maybe I can take my comment back from last year and you can see him have a great career. But Chris Jones is a guy that you got to take a chance for. And also, the last thing is, you know what type of person he is. I think the big thing we try to figure out what guys can fit in here, because Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, they like a certain type of guy, a team guy, one that's a good guy, one that's a great player. Remember when the thing was going on, it was the Chiefs versus the Jets, and remember Rodney Harrison kept talking about Zach Wilson, and he tried to bring Chris Jones, because Chris Jones had got the game-winning sack or the game-winning play, and he tried to bring Chris Jones into the foolishness. Chris Jones like, nah, I'm not gonna say that about that guy. He's out there trying his best. Like, that's the type of guy Chris Jones is. Last time I checked, that sounds like a Dan Campbell type guy.
And anytime you talk about a player like Chris Jones, I cannot help, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it a million times.
Salivate, man.
The Montez Sweat situation in Chicago. Montez Sweat gets traded to Chicago on August 31st. The point totals they gave up after Montez Sweat, you ready? 13, 26, 10, 13, 20, 16, 17, 9. They gave up more than 20 points one time in 8 games. That's winning football. And you win that way.
And you instantly see the play of players go up. Montez Sweat is one player.
And by the way, they were 5-3 after the trade.
And they were they only had 2 wins before that.
2-7 without him.
Exactly. And they won.
That's Montez Sweat.
100%. And then you see the play of the guys on defense go up. Look at what happens after. Jalen Johnson, pretty decent DB. After Montez Sweat get there, he's now all-pro to a certain extent, or he's second-team all-pro, or he's definitely made the Pro Bowl. Now he's getting paid. Now he gets franchised. You look at T.J. Edwards, who got paid last year. T.J. Edwards now look like the guy that they paid. Now will look like he deserved the money they got. You look at Tremaine Edmonds. They bought Tremaine Edmonds plays goes up. Billings plays goes up. Everybody on that defense, they respond to that because the job becomes easier when you bring in a guy that brings so much focal point. Like when you're focusing in on one player so much, you forget that these other guys are getting paid too, Ryan and Monty, and some of them can actually ball.